Hello. I've got a large chunk of cedar here, and I believe we are going to turn it into a few jewelry boxes and or lock boxes. It's not perfect, so I'm going to have to cut it up, plane it, wood glue it, and do all kinds of things to get what I need out of this wood. The first thing I'm going to do is use my trusty dusty but not rusty miter saw and slice this widthwise. Then I will try as best I can to run it through my table saw and get a straight line lengthwise, which I'm not going to be able to do, by the way, because I don't have a crosscut sled. I need to make one. So what I'll do is I'll make as straight a line as I can. And then once I slice these up, and I'm going to make the stands for the boxes. Once I make the stands and they're less than 12.5 inches, I can go back to my miter saw and get a perfect 90-degree cut. Either that, or if I chop them up in 6-foot chunks, I can run them through the planer on end. But the first thing I need to do is slice this off, and then we shall worry about going through the motions of putting it through the table saw, cutting up the pieces, and decide whether I'm going to use the miter saw or the planer. So the first thing to do is start taking this 10-foot board into chunks we can manage. Stick around. Well, we are moving right along on this jewelry box. I have cut, planed, sanded, and pre-drilled a few holes so that I can put this box together. But this is about how it'll be once I prepare to put the lid on. So the first thing I need to do is get this box put together. And the box will go together as such. So the first thing I need to do is set these together and make sure that they're at a 90-degree angle. Now, I didn't drill the holes all the way through. I just drilled them so that the screws wouldn't move around when I began to put them in. I also put a roundover bit on the inside of the box simply because I think that it looks nicer. There's no other reason. I'm going to set this bracket in. And start putting in the screws. Maybe it'd be easier. That is just about done. So we will put some clamps on here to really ratchet it down. Yeah, let's do it this way. see where we go from there. Tough. Once your clamps are on, I like to go around and tighten the screws one last time. And then check to make sure that my box is square. And it is. So we can let that set overnight, and tomorrow we will sand off the glue, attach it to the base, and prepare our lid. These are coming together. Thank you for sticking in there. Okay, now's the time to take the clamps off and see where we are. Hopefully, this has all come together. And we'll soon see. Let's see if I have managed to, and I have managed to square it and keep square. Now we have the box. Now I will use Minwax fast drying polyurethane to cover the outside of the box. I won't polyurethane the inside because I want it to still have that cedar smell. But once we get it the way we want it, I can mount it. I haven't decided which part I want to be front, which part I want to be back. But we can mount it on the base. So the next part I need to do is build a lid. So I'll measure this and we'll go from there. But it's coming together. I used a router and used a roundover bit to go through the insides of the jewelry box, and then I sanded it real well. I also sanded the outsides. The base is completely ready, but again, I want to make sure that everything's right before I mount this frame, and once the frame is mounted, I will cover the outside in polyurethane. I will not cover the inside because when they open the box, I want them to smell the cedar. So that's where we are. So let's start with the lid. Thanks for hanging in there. Well, we've put a name on this jewelry box so that when you open it up, it's going to be like that, and then you open it up. So we have to router out a name. The problem is this plate is so small that I'm having a hard time clamping it down, so I'm going to try and use it just the way it is. If it doesn't work, then I'll have to clamp it down. But I'm going to try and cut it just like it is. I've never done that before. Let's see how it works out. Let's rock and roll. moved around on me more than I wanted, but I think we did okay. I just didn't have the real estate to clamp it down. On the back side, it'll be easier because there's fewer letters. And you can peel this off and see where you are. You can't do it freehand. Well, I guess you could, but you're not going to get good results. However, once you've done the initial cutting, you know where all the letters and the indentations are, so it's pretty easy to clean it up. And that's how it's coming out. And we'll see how the back side came out. It's kind of like opening up a Christmas gift. You're either very excited, saying, "Oh, that's just what I wanted," or you're really unhappy and say, "That's not what I wanted at all." So, she will open the lid, see your name, open the lid, and there you have it. Now I'm going to stain the inside of these letters and then sand it off before we cover this in polyurethane. And again, we're only going to cover this side with polyurethane because it's the outside. When she opens the box, I want her to smell the cedar. But I will stain this and then sand it off. Well, I think we're about ready to make a final sanding and put on some polyurethane. If I can find my hose, we'll clean this off and see what we have here. So when she opens it, it's going to be like this. When she opens the jewelry box, it's going to be like that. So, now it's time to chuck a 220 sandpaper on her, make it nice and smooth, and then we'll put our polyurethane on it. So thanks again. I have finally glued the box frame to the base, and it is wonderful. I'm quite pleased with it. And I have finished with the lid. Once attached, will be like that. Open it this way. Now it's time to polyurethane. And I think we're going to do it in two sections because there's some things I'd like polyurethane here. So let's do this first. Now let's do the lid first. I have gloves on for obvious reasons, and I use this Minwax. It's fast drying polyurethane. It's quick. It goes on smooth. It's not as thick as Varathane. Varathane is premium polyurethane, and it is, but it tends to go on like jelly, especially in these cold temperatures. It's pretty cold out in my wood shop at present. Now again, I only want to cover the top and the sides of this. I'm not going to do the back side. And the reason being, I want it to have that cedar smell. But I am going to cover the back side here, the sides, and the front. I get a lot of bubbles with the brush, but the brush does a better job of putting it on evenly. And once it's on, and all you have to deal with is the bubbles, I have a cure. And it is a shop rag. And it's just that simple. This takes out the bubbles, helps it to go on more smoothly. I'll sand that off. Any of this on the back side, once it's dry, I'll sand off. And I will leave this for tomorrow. Like I said, I'm not worried about the back side because I'll sand that off once it's dry. Now we'll do the base and the box frame, which is now all one piece. Same procedure. Now all we have to do is wait. And I'll have another coat put on tomorrow, and then the following day, after I've sanded all the insides, well, that's going to be nice, I will attach the lid. Thanks for hanging in there. Sorry it took me so long to get back. I finished these boxes a few weeks ago, but I've neglected to finish this video. I made 3 boxes out of the wood that I started with. This one I made for my daughter Vivian, and she has already filled it with her goodies, and it retains that cedar smell because I polyurethane everything, every surface except the inside of the box. On the bottom I signed it. It's got a nice platform. It's even. It's a really nice box. And that's something that she can keep the rest of her life. And you can make these just like I showed you. It's not hard. So, once and for all, thanks very much for hanging in there.